Hi guys, welcome back to Two Worlds Collide podcast. On today's episode, we have Elliot Loney, comedian, stand-up comedian, all-round great bloke, and he does some of the best impersonations in the country. I hope you guys enjoy. This happens every single time. I would do it with I have a big politician on.
Oh yeah,
and the big politician.
Which one is my cans? Like my headphones here.
Two.
So this one here.
No, that's your mic.
Oh goddamn.
Yeah. So your headphones. Do you want your headphone up?
Yeah, if that's all right. Testing. I don't think it's coming through.
Which headphone? This one here.
Hello.
Got that now?
Nah. Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's coming through the headphones. It doesn't really matter too much, as long as you can hear me.
You can't hear yourself?
Oh, I can hear you.
You can hear. Okay. Let's sort this out.
Testing. That's it. That's mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And that's mine.
Great. No, we're on here.
We're on. There you go. I had the wrong one. But yeah, every single time I have to set it up like this.
Yeah.
And all my I had big politicians on, and they come in. They're like, "Where are we going?" "Oh, just to my back room." And then we'll be sitting there, and
it's a hard sell.
That's it. And then they're like, "Does this guy really have one of the biggest platforms in Australia?" But he's doing it outside his back room. Where's the producers? Where's all the where's all the people that run the show? And I'm like, "It's me, mate."
Well, it's better than saying it's in your basement.
That's it.
I mean, that's
come down there, a bit of Joseph Fritzl.
Yeah. We're off to a flyer.
Yeah, we are. But mate, Elliot, thank you very much for coming on Two Worlds Collide podcast. I've been looking forward to having you on ever since you did a fantastic reel. And you're known for your impersonations and a few things here and there. And yeah, obviously the Kelly Holiday one really caught my eye. And
well, get your pronouns right as Abby Chatfield's boyfriend. All right. It's 2026, mate. Let's not make that noise.
That's right. As a straight white male.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. No,
but, mate, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. You're here for a mate watching tennis?
Yeah, I am. So I'm here for the Adelaide International to watch Thanasi Kokonakis, who's a really close friend of mine.
Yep.
I come from a tennis background, so tennis is probably my favourite sport and something.
You a tennis player, eh?
A bad one these days, but I still coach tennis, and I'm still heavily affiliated with the sport. So
yeah. Were you good when you're younger?
I was a pretty decent junior. Yeah, like a state level junior, and I sort of gave it away when I was probably 19 at a serious level.
Yep.
But yeah, again, thanks for having me on, Sam. And I've been watching your stuff for ages, mate, and I love the sort of stuff you put out. So,
mate, thanks for the kind words.
Yeah.
Everyone that comes on always says that. They always say that they love the stuff that we're putting out. Even on the car ride here, you were saying there's not many. A few years ago, none of this happened, and everyone was a bit afraid to speak up on some of these certain topics that I dive into, and it's just really good to see that and I said this in my last podcast, and I'll probably say it on my next podcast, that the rise of normality and common sense is coming back to social media.
Correct.
And people like you, you may not think that you're doing such a fantastic job, even you're doing a good job as well, because through comedy and through some of the work you do, we're bringing some form of normality and common sense back to society. And I always love to say that culture and society is always upstream of politics. So if we can change the culture amongst us, then our politics and our politicians start preaching what we're actually talking about in society, because they just want to get into, or they want to keep their seat, right? So they have to stay relevant. So the more stuff we do, the more stuff you do, the more stuff Big Chalky does, and a lot of these other creators out there, the more it's turning us back to normality.
Yeah, I think so. And just encouraging discourse again, and just being tolerant of other people's opinions, and being able to have that genuine discussion, whether or not you lean left or right, just being able to have that freedom of speech to talk about certain topics and not have someone jump down your throat. I think it's really important to be okay with someone having a different opinion to yours. And I think with social media, we spoke about this off mic as well, but just with the algorithms, the way that they are now, people are being shoved down one narrative one way or the other. And we're seeing a lot of extremism either on the left or the right side. And I think to be able to just have a common sense view and somewhere in the middle where you can sort of take things from both sides and cherry pick, it's important to have open discussions about these kinds of things.
A lot of people would assume that I'm far right, though.
Yeah, well, it's funny, mate, I will say this. I posted that reel that you shared the other day reacting to my Abby
Oh, yeah.
Chatfield's boyfriend
Yeah.
comedy skit. And someone reached out to me on social media and was like, oh, be careful, man. That guy's pretty right. And at that point, I'd already listened to a hell of a lot of your stuff, and I'd listened to some of your podcasts, and I've heard you criticize people on both sides of the spectrum. So I'm like, well, I know that is a incorrect take, so I'm just not going to get involved in it. But like, it's just kind of...
A lot of my takes are actually, you know, I'm pretty left-leaning in some of my stuff, and a lot of my followers will hear that and be, oh, Sam, that's completely and utter garbage. But, you know, taxing big business, taxing our natural resource sector, that is a left-leaning choice to make.
No, absolutely.
You know, like a lot of the left has always built themselves up by, we need to make sure everyone pays fair tax. We need to make sure big businesses and big corporations aren't funneling profits overseas.
Yep.
And we need to make sure our natural resource sector is Australia's, not the rest of the world's.
Yeah.
And that's very left-leaning politics.
Mm-hmm.
But then I come in with all my other stuff of saying, you know, well, I want to talk up against immigration. I want to talk up against the indoctrination of our kids. I want to talk up against how I think society is being run right now and where it's driving us. And it's everyone sees that and they say, he's a full right-winger. And it's like, well, I actually don't think, you know, I like this whole left and right stuff.
Yeah.
You know, because...
people are very quick to throw labels around.
Yeah.
Very quick.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's one of the reasons why I was so keen to come on your podcast, because I feel very similar in some of the views that I hold. Like I'm not a very politically driven person. I sort of cherry pick little things from either side that I agree with. And I'm just a comedian, man. Like I just love making people laugh. And I'm against some of the sort of woke culture and being able to, as a comedian, sort of say things in the... say things just kind of in the pursuit of comedy, you know, like I don't want to feel restricted. And like I've had people come up to me after shows and said, you can't say that. And I'm like, well, it's not really the view that I hold. It's just a joke. Like
cancel culture is massive in comedy, isn't it?
Huge.
Like I was talking to Amos Gill about this.
Yeah.
You know, and one of my other friends, Jared Goundry, he's a military guy and he's made it really big in the military comedy world.
Yeah.
And he's got a massive supporter base in that first responder community, right? And goes and cracks military jokes and everyone loves it, right?
Yeah.
He always bags out the Air Force for being gay and stuff like that. And he was explaining to me that most of the ground level comedy is owned by the ABC, and the ABC is ultra woke. And, you know, have stuff like The Fringe, and Amos Gill can't get a gig at The Fringe.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't know too much about that kind of stuff, but I do know that there is like sort of a monopoly in certain fields in the entertainment space, you know, and I think a lot of creators and comedians or actors are very scared to say that they align with sort of one way or the other because they're scared of being like sort of blacklisted from certain roles or certain gigs. And that is a genuine fear, I think, that a lot of entertainers hold.
Well, it happened to me.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So I was doing a bit of modelling and a little bit of acting last year. And well, not after my agency dumped me, but and the year before that, and it was great. Like,
did they give you like a justification as to why?
Yeah, they sent me. I've done a reel on it. They sent me an email saying that your views do not align, or we cannot align with you, and we cannot align with your views, and they're bringing the agency under repute or some bullshit wording like that, and they just said, we have to separate with you. Look. And I've never mentioned the agency. A lot of people went on and found them, and I think sent some stuff to them because I did a reel about it. Because I'm like, I want to voice my opinion over this. Yeah. But yeah, they dumped me last year. Just sent me an email from it, and look, I was sort of disappointed, but at the same time, all this was kicking off, and I'm like, well, it was good work because I'd go model for like 3 hours. You get like $1,500.
Yeah,
and it was awesome.
That's good, mate.
It was awesome.
Must be nice, brother.
And it was really good like that. But I'm sort of glad now that I'm out of that world. Yeah, I had a whole bunch of people reach out to me from that reel and said I would represent you. People went over in like California and that they're like, I want to represent you. Yeah. But I was sort of just like, man, I really want to build what I'm doing now. So I want to move away from that world. No, well, good on you for doing this, mate. And I did want to sort of preface the podcast by saying this early, but I've got a lot of respect for your time in the military as well. And I want to say thank you for your service too, because I know that that's, a huge sacrifice that you made and like obviously something that is extremely difficult to do.
and I've got so many questions I'd love to ask you. But,
Mate, fire away.
Well, the first thing I was going to say was I actually did a stand-up gig at the Melbourne Military Officers Ball. This was like a few years ago now. And I was doing some gags, and I think, do you know Limo? He was also there. Yeah, he's a great comic too. And he got up there, and I was doing some impersonations, and they kind of had me around the round tables, and I was popping up as different characters, like Rafa Nadal and Matthew McConaughey and Morgan Freeman, and I would like take the piss out of like the senior officers. Great crowd, amazing sort of audience. But I did want to sort of mention that my grandfather, so Wes Loney, was actually like a bit of a hero in the Second World War.
Was he really?
Yes, and he used to fly bombers, and there is like news articles out there. He bombed a German U-boat under heavy fire,
right?
And got quite a bit of kudos for that, and got a handwritten letter from Winston Churchill for his efforts.
Do you know what U-boats are?
Yeah, they're the German
subs.
Yeah, German subs. Yeah,
and they practically were destroying the English Navy at the time, because these U-boats were very, very in front of their class in technology.
Yeah.
And the people going like, so what Hitler did as well is that they idolized these U-boat crewmen and drivers. So everyone wanted to flood there because their propaganda campaign, they kicked them up, and they're like, the German U-boats are practically winning us this war. We are knocking out massive UK and French ships, and there was a huge propaganda campaign, so everyone was flooding to the U-boats. And man, to knock these things out, they were destroying us for a while. And then you're seeing what the Allies had to do to try and destroy the U-boats. Like, they were driving around just dropping bombs off the side of things, and it was all done through noise back then. So these U-boat crewmen, like, they couldn't even brush their teeth below deck because if it made noise, or maybe not teeth, but they couldn't walk around because the sound of them hitting the steel on the deck would then amplify, and then the boats could pick it up, and then they would drop bombs on them.
Oh, that's so interesting.
It is.
Wow.
I can go into this for hours.
Good.
Hours.
Good, because I've got this crazy story that I just love to share, and I actually haven't ever really said this. I mean, not on no public like podcast forum have I ever said this, but what he actually did, which I'm so proud of, and it's something that I find so fascinating, was he won a DFC, like a Distinguished Flying Cross, for his efforts in that. And one of the things that he did was when he bombed the German U-boat, he dropped a marker buoy in the ocean so that these German survivors could be rescued. And then what he did much later in his life, when he was an old man, is he went to Germany and tracked down some of the survivors.
No way.
And these guys broke down in tears. Like, they could not believe that they were like, I cannot believe that you're here. Like, you're the reason. I have a family. And they treated him like a hero.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, amazing.
That's such a nice story from such a terrible time.
Terrible time.
And it just shows you as well was that men from that time, and even men in Afghanistan, guys that I fought with, some of the actions that we were doing at the time were because we weren't ordered, but we thought that was morally correct at the time. Like, we had to defeat the enemy, and you were fighting on one side and he was fighting the other side. But there's nothing to say that after that war, you might be friends with that guy. Yeah. Like, even in World War One, they had a break in World War One in the trench warfare. And
I think I read about this.
Yeah, and the Germans and French, or I think it might have been the Germans and English, on Christmas, they had a 15-minute soccer match between the trenches.
I think I remember reading about this in history. Yeah.
Even with the trench warfare between the Turks, which was the Ottoman Empire at the time, and the Australians. There was that many bodies littered all through it that the Australians and the Turks went, hey guys, we need to cease fire, because if we don't get these bodies out of here, we're all going to die from disease. And there were Australians and Turks working together to pull bodies away from that line so they could all survive, because if they didn't work together, they were all going to die. God. And it just shows there is a point of humility in humanity, in like the inner soul of a man. We don't want to kill each other. No. We don't want to destroy each other. But we also sometimes got to realize that you have to fight for what you believe in. That's right. And sometimes that means you're going to have to make some decisions which you might not be comfortable with back then, but it just shows like the humility that your grandfather had at the time. Where he was just like, well, I did that because it's a requirement
Yeah,
of
it was
me.
ordered to do. So,
Yeah, because it required me. But he had the humiliation. Oh, sorry, he had the humanity within himself to drop it back and say, well, these people, they're also people.
Yeah.
You know, like, and it's a fantastic thing to see that he went back there. That's awesome. That's one of the coolest stories told in the podcast.
Mate, it's amazing, and it's something that I'm so proud of as well. Like it actually makes me emotional even thinking about it, because I'm so proud that he had the bravery to do something like that. You know what I mean? Like it makes me feel like I've underachieved.
Yeah.
Shocking.
Well,
but,
hopefully there's no World War so you can overachieve. Right? We want to stick away from World War III.
Yeah, well, it might be inevitable at this stage.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, yeah, that's it. The battle for oil is on.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like there's just so many cool stories, and I have some of his war memorabilia at my family home too, and just like seeing some of those items and sort of the history associated with them is incredible. And he wrote a book. It's not been published. It's kind of just for like my family. But even flipping through that and just seeing some of the things that he wrote about his time in the war, I'm just like, what? Like just the sacrifice that he made and the things that he did, and at such a young age, you know, like the bravery that these guys had.
Yeah, they were average age was like 21 or something.
Yeah,
and they were all getting shipped off. People were lying.
Yeah,
about their age.
Yeah,
like 16-year-olds.
Yep, all
lying,
the time,
being like, I want to go fight.
Yeah,
lying. It's just it blows my mind. You look at 16-year-olds today.
Well, that's exactly what I was about to say. Like, it's so crazy reading about that history and then thinking to yourself now, like, I don't think there would be one person at that age now in Australia who'd be willing to suit up and go to the front line, you know, and be jumping out of their skin to be like, let's do this.
Yeah, I was, I wanted to join the military at 16, but I had to wait. Well, actually, you can join when you're 17, but I waited till I finished school. But yeah, I joined at 18.
Yeah.
Was over in Afghan at 21.
Yeah.
Had my 20th or 22nd. I don't know. I had a birthday over there, really early 20s, maybe 22nd birthday.
Mate, that is such a young age to do something like that, though. You know, at that age, and to go over into a war zone like that. Like, what do you think? What's the most sort of the biggest change you probably saw in yourself after being in a war zone like that at such a young age? Like, do you feel like it built, like, I mean, obviously it would have built a hell of a lot of character, but what is one takeaway from that you think fundamentally changed you as a person?
Cherishing life.
Yeah.
Because you understand when you go over there that not everyone lives like Australia.
Yeah.
And then you also understand as well that what we have in Australia is so very special.
Yeah.
And, you know, the fight to protect it is also very important.
Yeah. Have you always been patriotic, or is that something that came from?
No, I've always been very patriotic. I grew up in a very patriotic family.
Yeah.
My dad, you know, always made sure there was a Australian flag flying at the back of our house.
Yeah.
We loved Test cricket.
Yeah.
Loved Test cricket. And
is that your sport growing up?
Cricket and footy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. And my dad was a really good footy player growing up.
Yeah.
And so it was footy and cricket. So we grew up in that sort of lifestyle of just loving sport.
Yeah.
Loving community.
Yeah.
And loving family as well. And being very patriotic. Like from the day I was born, we were getting up and going to dawn service.
Yeah.
When not many other families would, but my dad would make sure we'd get up and pay our respects and stuff like that. So yeah, got bred. So that was always in me. And look, there was a couple of reasons why I joined the military. One was because of my cousin, and two, because I did feel some sort of sense to serve my country. There was that patriotic thing of more like an inner calling to suit up and, you know, go over and fight a foreign war for my country. Yeah. But it's funny though, you know, some of the stuff that you do from the word from 18 to 24, and some of the research I've done now, you know, maybe there's different reasons that we're actually there for, but it doesn't take away from the fact of what we did over there, the brotherhood that we had, and, you know, some of the stuff that we formed as friendships over there. So it never takes away from that. So I always remind myself there was a greater calling for that. But was there like a major catalyst as to why you decided, like, I have to do this? Like, was there a catalyst for the reason that you went over and did it? Because I think like most 18 to 21-year-old guys, they just want to have a drink, maybe do some study and like chase girls. Like the fact that you just kind of did that. Yeah, I had a massive influential figure, and I've told this on the podcast a bunch of times with my cousin Scott. So he died over in Afghan 18 months before I went to Afghan. Yeah. And he was in a 2 commando regiment, so that's special forces. And it was always my goal to get to that regiment. And he was 8 years older than me. So when I was in like year 8, 9 and 10, me and him stayed very close. So he would call me from Afghan and he would call me from Iraq.
Yeah.
And we would have discussions and conversations and he would come and visit us when he's back home.
Yeah.
And he'd show me videos of what they're doing. And I'm just sitting here like foaming at the mouth.
Yeah.
Like, I need this.
Yeah, well,
And,
that makes sense. I can imagine that would have been like kind of so inspirational as well.
Yeah, so that was a massive catalyst for me joining the army. But mate, and then there's a different fight on our hands these days that we need to have. So it's a bit different. I'm not using skills and technique that I was taught by the Australian military, but now I'm using my voice. So,
well, that's one thing that I did want to talk about on the podcast with you, and something that I haven't really. Also not really spoken about publicly either before. Speaking of AFL, I had an animated series that I was trying to get funding for a long time called The Prestigious 9As. I'm not sure if you're aware of it or have you ever seen it.
No.
What is it? Well, it was about this bombastic footy coach called Mr. Parker who recruit professional athletes from different codes to come and play for his like junior AFL football team. Mm-hmm. But it was just like so stupid. It was kind of like comedy for the kids, satire for the adults. Sort of like Simpsons meets Family Guy, but completely sports-based. And I had an idea to make each series or each episode center around a different sport. So they would be like the head of sport, and it would be like a sports-based comedy adult animation. I made like an animated teaser that garnered like over 1 million views on Facebook at the time. I made a Facebook page when Facebook was kind of like in its infancy, and like this was but like before Instagram and TikTok were
the dominant platform.
The dominant platform. And within a week, it had like 16,000 followers, and it just blew up, and people just wanted more. So for those of our listeners who don't know what Screen Australia it is, it's a government-funded body that give money to creators and people in the film industry to create projects.
I wonder if they'd give any money to me.
Probably not, mate. I'm just going to say that right now.
I might be on their blacklist.
So essentially, I had this great idea, and I was so passionate about this concept, and I had put so many hours into this thing, and I'd created this whole story world, and I knew that I was onto something just because of the sheer social media numbers that I had. And I went for a very small amount of money in the grand scheme of things just to develop the show. I think the sum was about 20 grand or something, development funding. I went for about 3 or 4 rounds, I think I'm going to say, for funding. So I tried like sort of over the course of like a year and a half, 3 different times, and sort of shape the project to sort of suit their needs to meet the quota for funding. And each time that I went back there, I was given the most ridiculous sort of answer as to why. They're like, oh, this animation is skewed towards like a male audience. You need more 50-50 representation. Okay. So I'm like, all right, fine, change it. Oh, we noticed that you're doing an impersonation of like Rafael Nadal. That's racist. So you're going to have to take that out and change it. Oh, and then I go again, and then there's sort of shifting the goalposts all the time. And then I see the shows that they are funding, and I'm not going to name any of the shows or anything like that, but like, a show that's just about like it was like an Indigenous show, and then it was like an all-female cast show. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but these shows,
it's driven off DEI.
They just got axed straight away.
Yeah.
Like they gave them hundreds of thousands of dollars to create these projects, taxpayer money, and just gone. Yeah. And I'm sitting there, and look, it's probably fairly safe to say that I might be biased. I mean, it's my baby, and I put a lot of time and effort into this thing, but I had some of the biggest, I'm not going to name, but I had some of the biggest sports stars in Australia, especially maybe around the world, saying that if Elliot Loney gets the funding, we'll support him, basically saying that we will voice our own animated avatar in the show. So in my head, I'm thinking this is a self-perpetuating marketing vehicle. That's what this is. These guys are going to put it on their huge social media platforms, and this thing's going to go nuts, and it's going to create so many jobs in the Australian film industry. It's going to be a really economically viable product. It's going to be out there for ages. Crickets.
It's because you're a straight white male.
Well, I mean, look, mate.
I'm telling you.
I just...
DEI, bro. DEI.
Well, this is the thing that I want to talk about, like equality of outcome versus equality of opportunity. And I'm a big believer that everyone should have equal opportunity. But when to me, it just felt like they were hitting quotas. And they were just like, you just don't have enough of the quotas that we're looking for.
And
it had nothing to do with merit.
That's reverse racism and reverse sexism. I say this shit all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know. You're telling me that because, someone, let's look in government, for example. Apparently in government, and nothing against women or anything like that, but we have to have a 50-50 quota. It's like, no. How about just the best person for the job?
I don't care
if they're blue, green, black, or orange, or female or male. Can't be transgender because that shit's made up. But but it is 100%. It needs to be driven off merit.
That's how
merit-based opportunity, right?
That's right.
And this is where we're pushing away from. I feel the same thing in the military, right? I have so many people come to me and say, Sam, I didn't get into the military. And I say, why? And they're like, well, I don't know. But I do know in the military from people that I've spoken to in recruitment, they're like, yeah, we've got to fill quotas, mate. We've got to fill DEI quotas. We've got to fill female quotas in certain jobs. We've got to fill coloured people in certain jobs. And it's like, I mean, if they're doing it in the military where we are, like, people are fighting for their lives, that's the one place it shouldn't be. But I'm not surprised at all, mate, to hear that it's completely in there.
It's just so interesting because, look, I'm not going to speak on behalf of a different sect or minority group or anything like that. But, if I was someone who represented a different minority and I felt like I was funded purely based on ticking a quota,
you wouldn't feel right,
I wouldn't feel right. That's how I feel. And the thing is, I was able to measure the success of what I had put online to the things that they had funded at the time. And I was able to look at that and go, I just don't understand. Based on the numbers alone, they should be putting the money into something that has the potential to be an economically viable product. And if it is successful, who's to say that it might not have been the next Simpsons to come out of Australia? I mean, I know that's a bold thing to say, but what if it was? Imagine how many jobs and opportunities that would create within that industry in Australia if that were the case. You only need to look at something like Bluey. I mean, it's a different sort of show. It's an animated show based for kids, it's a different audience, but that's a huge show, Australian-made show as well. Created so many opportunities. It's now a global superpower. It's a massive show, and I just think far out. It's just so sad to see those sort of equality of outcome versus equality of opportunity being sort of implemented within that industry, and that's just something that I've seen firsthand as a creator. Yeah,
and I'm not surprised at all, because that's the way, they mentioned in Parliament. We have Pakistan-born senators stand there in Parliament and say, "You white people." Yeah, and it just seems to be that there's this attack on what I've seen as well, attack on men, and globally attack on Western nations, which comes back to attack on color-based skin, mostly white people. And then they bring in stuff like DEI, and now we have to be fully inclusive of everything under the sun, other than the majority of people that are in Australia. And that just makes a lot of people pissed off. It creates more divide. More divide. If you ask your average Australian, 99.99999% of them will say, I don't care about the colour of anyone's skin or if they're male or female. Well, I just want the best person working next to me.
Absolutely.
Everyone will say that. But when they come in and they're like, we have to have, let's say, Indigenous people. I love the Indigenous population of Australia, and I have a lot of respect for them. They were here a long time before us, and they are the first Australians, basically, right? But when there has to be a certain amount of Indigenous people in a workforce, it's but they're 0.01% of the population. Yeah. So if I have a workforce of 100%, you're telling me there need to be 10% Indigenous. It's it just doesn't work out. The numbers don't work out. Yeah. And nothing's for proportionality.
Yeah, that's right.
And you just think to yourself, you're like, well, where are we going as a society? And
well, that's right.
We're pushing back, though. We are pushing back.
I think so as well. And everyone can relate to this. When you see a form and you're filling out a pro forma and it asks you what your sexual orientation is, not that there's any problem with whatever way you swing, but it's why does that matter on this application form or on a medical form? Why?
Yeah, a lady sent me something the other day where she was going in for her third child. Yeah. And she sent me a screenshot of what the doctor's clinic wanted. There was 7 different options for what gender she was.
Yeah, I mean...
And it's hey, let's live in reality here. Only females can have babies.
Yeah, I mean,
it should only be one option.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
I'm a female.
But this is the thing, like, I mean, I've been around long enough now that, like, you know, if I think back to 10, 15 years ago, even when I was at school, you know, like, there were certain things that you could say that there was, like, you know, it wasn't taboo. Like, to say that, you know, only women can have children, that's not, like, a controversial thing, I don't think. But it is now. Yeah. It is now. It's crazy. Like, I'm kind of, like, even a little bit scared to say that on the mic, on this podcast. Like, it's like, I don't know.
Oh, mate, and people will be bagging you out for not saying it. Trust me.
Well, this is the thing, though. Like, it's sort of created this blurred line where it's like people, and I see it in the comedy space, it's like people don't know where the line is. And I always say, I love this quote from George Carlin, like, a comedian's job is to find where the line is and then deliberately cross it. And if you don't have that sort of freedom of creativity within the comedy space to make a joke and then sort of just stand by that joke, and people can be offended at it, that's fine. People can say that but it's just a shit joke. If you don't like it, okay, if you're well within your right to say it's a shit joke, but you can't tell me that I can't say it.
Exactly right. And comedians normally steer society of where they're going. They're normally early on everything. Always early on everything, right? You talk to, like, Amos Gill, or you watch Joe Rogan, or you watch...
Amos Gill's a great comic, by the way.
He's brilliant. I reckon he's one of the best in Australia.
Yeah, he's fantastic. And very smart, too.
Very, very smart. Comedians are very smart. Comedians are smart, they're cluey, they're quick, and they're straight at it. But comedians are normally early on everything. Yeah, because there you go. Mate, you were the first one to impersonate him. But mate, they're always normally early on everything, and they're normally the society guide as to what culturally is okay to say. And if we lock down comedians and what they can say, man, we will become a robotic society. Yeah,
well, I think it's so important to be able to maybe even, especially the way that society is at the moment, because, you know, we've already touched on this, but just like the way that the algorithms are, like, shoving these narratives down people's throats, and it's all sort of tailored. So these alt-left views or these alt-right extremist views are being shoved down people's throats. So people are becoming more and more divided in society. You need, like, a jester or, like, someone who's able just to have that freedom to take the absolute piss. You know, like that needs to be the release for the people. You know, they need to be able to go to a comedy show and say, fuck, the world's hectic. Like, I just want to have a laugh at someone.
Yeah. You need to be able to take the piss out of Donald Trump and Joe Biden in the same routine.
Yep. And you know what? I have. And I've taken the piss, and I had a lot of viral success on Facebook impersonating Tony Abbott. And some of those videos garnered millions of views on my social media on Facebook back in the day. And I've done more recent stuff with Albo. And you know what I found really interesting is when I was taking the piss out of right-wing figures, there was nothing but positivity. Even the people on the right were having a laugh.
Of course they would have.
But as soon as I have started taking the mickey out of people that are on that left side of the spectrum, I have got some crazy comments and DMs from people who represent that side. And I'm just like, wow, this is very hateful stuff. And I just wonder, I'm like, look, it's not all people that represent those sides, but the extreme left people, I'm kind of like, are you unable to take a joke? Like, are you unable to understand the difference between a take and a joke? Like, I don't know. It's
you know, Dave Chappelle almost got cancelled in America for choking about transgenderism 2 or 3 years ago. That just shows. Yeah. You can't joke about certain things on the left, but, like, I take the piss out of them all the time. And I actually think some of my views are I don't joke in my views. Yeah. Not too much. But I've had a very similar thing. I can come at practically anyone in the world and I can have a massive crack at them. But the most pushback I ever get is when I go after hard left figures. Or, like, I went after the entirety of the left for mocking Charlie Kirk's death. Yeah. And I went after Antifa. Yeah. For when they rocked up at the March for Australia rallies when we were marching against immigration, and they rocked up and threw rocks at us, and they're the ones that brutalised police. And I went at them, and I've never had so many death threats in my life after I went at that crowd.
Well, yeah, that's another thing too. Like, I mean, I understand that, you know, that whole Charlie Kirk thing was disgusting. Like, I saw the footage and I wish I hadn't. And it was one of the most brutal things I've ever seen. And to see them glorify it and actually go after him after watching that footage.
And think it's okay.
I was disgusted by that.
There are a couple, I think her name is Lucy Siegel. She is either a Greens or a Teal member in Parliament. And she liked a comment where she said, you know, this is from like one of those Abby Chatfield type far left figures where they were saying, oh, you know, sometimes political violence is okay. And I'm just thinking to myself, and she liked it, and she was like, someone else said, oh, are they happy about Charlie Kirk's death? And they were like, yes. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, so, for example, if I went out and I did what I want to do in this year, you know, go do some speaking gigs, go talk to people, go debate people, and I took a round through the jugular, would these people celebrate my death? Damn as well. 100% they will.
Yeah.
They will sit there and they'll celebrate my death and they'll say, thank God that guy's gone. But with me, though, you know, if someone came out and hit a big figure on the left, I'd be like, where is that piece of shit that hit that figure?
Yeah,
we need to get him and publicly hang him, because you cannot do that.
Yeah, 100%.
You cannot go after someone for their voice and their words.
Yeah.
And I'll probably start a GoFundMe page for that person that died, because it doesn't matter what side they're on. No one deserves to die for their political views.
No, absolutely.
No one.
Yeah.
And for them to come out there and mock that, I mean, that was one of the days where I turned.
Yeah.
Like, that was one of the days which changed this channel as well. I'm like, that's it. No more am I going to pander to worrying about what I say.
Yeah.
I mean, if I die, I'm going to die on my feet, not on my knees.
Yeah. And mad respect, you know, like, I mean, that's sort of the same way that I feel too. And, you know, I guess we spoke about it earlier too, but like, it's so interesting to see how quickly they just jump down people's throats, you know, and it's so crazy just seeing like the success of these videos that I've posted that you prefaced earlier. Like they have gone so viral, and just to see that there was so many comments sort of like saying this is bullying. I'm like, no, it's not. It's satire. Do you not know the difference? Like it's just, these people are public figures. They're famous. They're famous people. Everybody knows who these people are. And especially Abby Chatfield's boyfriend, you know, he's everywhere at the moment. Like he's very successful. He's famous, whether you like it or not, he is. So I'm allowed to do a satirical take on that.
Like, type in my name.
Yeah.
You see the people coming at me, bro. How they paste like, they have like clown faces on me. I seen one where they were like hanging me. Like I had someone was hanging me. They're just like first time, and they had my face on it. Like,
oh, mate.
People literally wish death upon me, and they take the piss out of me all the time. They bully me so much online. And they bully me so much online to the point where I just don't scroll anymore. Yeah. Because it's in my algorithm, because they say my name. And even if it's taking the piss out of me, it drops my algorithm. I'll scroll through and I'm like, the first 3 videos I hit of like, this piece of shit. I'm like, phone down.
It's crazy, man.
Who cares?
I know.
Who gives a shit? Right? I don't care about it.
No.
I put my voice out there and I expect people to come at me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that just comes with the territory, doesn't it? Like if you're someone like yourself, or even someone like me, even as a comedian, you know, who you think would be sort of immune to that kind of stuff, people just can't seem to distinguish anymore the difference between like a take and a joke. And it's just kind of like, you know,
well, that's society though.
Yeah,
that's where we've come. Society, you can't say this, you can't say that, or you might offend this person, you might offend that person. And we've become very reluctant as a society to be able to express our views, because we're too worried about what people will think of us.
Well, I think like it's important to talk about the fact that I think extremism is bad on either side. And one thing that I find really interesting, and something that I've talked about a little bit, is, you know, in school, when I was in school, we were taught about World War II and about Hitler and about like alt-right extremism. But then also I did a little bit of my own research, and I read The Gulag Archipelago by Alexander Solzhenitsyn, which talks about what alt-left extremism was under Stalin. And either side, it ends the same way.
Communism, fascism.
Yes.
They're the same, bro.
They're the same.
They're the same.
And it's crazy because I think about my time at school and I was like, why was I not taught about the other side of the spectrum as well? Like, it's like I only got one side, but it's like extremism on either side is bad. And it's just kind of like, I think, I mean, I don't know what the curriculum is like at school now. It's been a while since I've been out of school.
It's communism-based stuff, trust me. Even in universities, I've had some friends now reach out to me and send me some stuff. They're ex-military guys. And obviously after the extra-military, they spent 10 years in the military, 15 years in the military. They want to come out and they go to uni. And they're like, bro, what they're teaching in the uni is that like anyone on the right side of politics is a fascist and they're Hitler, and then anyone on the good side of politics, they're just preaching communism.
Yeah,
It's and like, mate, they have signs. They have literal signs and on their notice boards up in universities.
Yeah.
And one of my mates got given a paper saying why communism is a good thing and should be pushed into society. And this is an ex-war veteran, done 4 or 5 tours. He went up to the teacher and he said, mate, why have you given me this? And he just, like, is this approved? He said, no, this is something I just believe everyone should have. It's happening in schools, right? It's happening in the university system right now.
It's funny that you mention that. I'm not going to mention this person's name just because I'm not sure if he'd be comfortable with me mentioning him, but he's a very smart guy and he's a lawyer. And he went to university quite a while ago. And as he was finishing in his contingency, the professor said, congratulations on sort of graduating your law degree, blah, blah, blah. You guys are probably the last people of the cohort that are being taught how to think and not what to think.
It's sad.
Yeah.
Very sad.
And it's interesting because it has sort of made its way into the education space. And I think there needs to be more of a sort of middle ground in the education space to sort of be able to choose. Or if you want to be in the middle, that's fine too. You don't have to pick a side.
Yeah.
You can be sort of center. That is a place you can stay.
Historically, universities have been very, very left-leaning, but now they're giving this like a radical left of like the right is fascist and there are enemies.
Well, that's sort of like how the take.
Yeah, and it wasn't free thinking.
Yeah.
Now it's like controlled thinking, even in schools. So schools now...
Well, that's right, actually. That's a good point. It's more freedom of thought. Like it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And it sort of signifies what happened with the Charlie Kirk event.
Yeah.
Someone with freedom of thought and freedom of speech, he got taken out at a university where they preach that stuff.
Yeah.
But even back to schools, you know, young learning education, a lot of their curriculum is driven from the federal level. And what Trump has just done over in America, he's scrapped that federal level stuff and he's put it back to the states and said, this needs to be done on what we're teaching our children with consultation with the parents.
Yeah.
And if parents aren't involved with the consultation process with the schools and the school boards, and parents now know exactly what their kids are being taught, it wipes out all this weird stuff that we're teaching them. I bet you if we did the same thing here, our kids would not be told that the land they're on is stolen. We would not be told that there's 52 genders in school.
Yeah.
We would be revamping the entire education system. And that's what needs to happen when there's a change of government come, because all the government right now, they're pushing it from federal level down. Yeah,
I listened to your podcast with that education expert.
Yep, that's the guy. That's where I got it from.
Yeah, I did listen to that one, and I think that's so true. Like, I mean, Elon Musk has been sort of a big advocator of that too, like saying that we should sort of revamp the education system and revisit that, and like it's a very outdated system. And yeah, like I'm someone who the education system, when I think back to my schooling, it didn't suit me at all. And I would have loved to have an option of like a different type of education that I could have digested at the time, but it just wasn't available to me. And I think it's so important for like the next generation to have, I mean, I don't know how they'd implement it or like where it would begin, but it would be nice to have an alternative option maybe perhaps.
Yeah, they just need to, like I said, they need to get the consultation purpose or the consultation aspect of it correct. Yeah. If they don't get that aspect of it correct, then parents won't get involved in what their kids are being taught. It's the exact same with sporting teams. Yeah. Parents love getting involved in sporting teams. They all have their consultation. Sporting clubs, their consultation. Everything's done purposely there. So why isn't it done with their education system? Yeah. So, you know, and then in places like Melbourne, you know, they're talking about a whole bunch of genders, and then kids can actually start transitioning behind parents' backs at school. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, what's going on? Yeah. How is this happening under Jacinta Allen? Yeah. Yeah. And whoever that dork was before, Dan Andrews. Yeah, I've got a mate who's got a young kid, and he was telling me a story how he came home and he's like, I'm not sure what gender I am. This kid's like 6 years old. 6, bro. Yeah. Yeah. He's like, he's 6 years old and he's like, I'm just not sure what gender I am. And his dad had to sit him down and be like, look, mate, like, you know, you're too young. Like, just, you know. You can't even choose your own bedtime. Yeah. Like, and they're telling kids this. Yeah. And then they're coming home, man. I couldn't believe it when he told me that. I'm like, this kid's 6 years old? Like, at least give him some time. Yeah. You know, like, maybe when he finishes school or when he's like old enough to be an adult and make a choice, whatever, that's fine. No one's going to hold him. But being indoctrinated at that age, it's
frightening stuff.
I had a lady named Angie Jones on this podcast. She's a really, really cool lady. She's full left-leaning.
Yeah.
Massively. Like, she's a Greens voter her whole life.
Yep.
But she's been abandoned by the party because the party don't know what a woman is. And she goes there and so she's a women's rights activist. And I got her on here a couple months ago. And she was a bit intimidated and scared at the start. But once we warmed up, the podcast was fine because she thought maybe I was coming in here to set her up.
Yeah,
and I'm like, no. Yeah, I'm like, no, I just want to talk to you about your views on like what is a woman and what is a man. And she's like, she goes into the voting booth and just votes no one because there's no one that speaks for her, because she won't vote for the right of politics because she hates their politics. But the left of politics, they've abandoned her because they can't identify what a woman is. And you know, she's advocating for women-only spaces. Yeah. But then there's dudes in dresses walking into women-only spaces because they just identify as that without even having a sex change. Yeah. Like, that happens in society now.
Yeah, that's true.
And we're like, if we're allowing this in society and we're teaching this in school, I mean, we need to make some changes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
That's why I keep pushing the current government, even Susan Ley. Like, it doesn't matter if we change between Labor and Liberal because both of them can't identify this sort of stuff. Yeah. And society will keep going further downhill.
Well, I saw you speaking in the podcast that you just did with Jackson O'Doherty, which was brilliant, by the way. I had to listen to that.
I was very, just before we start, I got a lot of hate when we first posted a photo of me and him on there. And I hope then people that gave me a lot of hate sit down and listen to the entirety of the podcast, because you would have seen a much different Jackson to what you've seen on the...
Yeah. Like, he spoke very candidly, like you both did. You bounced off well off each other, and I thought it was like very like sort of insightful, and I loved how there was no sort of taboo topics. Like, you guys spoke very openly about a lot of things, which is, I think, what podcasts should be, like just a freedom to discuss sort of everything.
No script, no nothing.
Yeah, just, you know, straight off the cuff. And I had a point I was going to raise, but I've completely forgotten. Maybe this coffee...
you said having Jackson O'Doherty on the podcast.
Yeah. Having Jackson O'Doherty on the podcast, there was a topic that you guys discussed that I wanted to raise, but it's escaped me. It may come back.
Oh, hopefully it does. Well, in the meantime, can you give me some impersonations?
Yeah, of course. Who would you like to speak to? Well, I did have like an idea. I was going to bring fucking...
That's exactly... I know who that is. Straight white male.
Fuck. Yeah, fucking... Why is your podcast called Two Worlds Collide?
I typed it into ChatGPT and that's what it spat out, mate.
Well, I don't like it. There's only one world and it's Abby's world. So fuck off. That's fucking sexist. Fuck off.
That's a very one way world to think about it. Man, bro, when he came, so I heard him on a podcast a while ago, and I don't want to give these guys too much airtime, but he literally was like, yeah, when Abby made me realise that I'm a straight white male. And I'm like, bro. And this guy's getting jammed down everyone's throat. Jammed down everyone's throat.
What's crazy is, like, sometimes when I see people like this on social media, I wonder, I'm like, if I had a beer with this guy or this girl, like at a pub, and I was just talking to them, I wonder if they'd be this way inclined or they'd be completely different. Because there's often times that I've seen someone on social media and I'm like, oh, what's this guy like? And then I've met him and I'm like, oh, this guy's a ripper, or this chick's actually really nice. But it's just so strange. Like, I feel like maybe my algorithm's feeding me this, but every time I see a video, it's just something, he's just saying something outrageous. Like it was just the other day that my friend sent me a reel that I couldn't help but laugh at. And he was in an interview somewhere and someone was asking him a question, and he answered the question by saying, like, oh yeah, that's a great question. Like, what a mad question. I'm like, bro, what are you saying? What does that mean?
It's and people were rejecting this hand over fist now.
Yeah,
that was one of the greatest things when your reel went viral.
Yeah,
and because everyone was just sick of it. We're sick of it being jammed down our throats. It's like, hey man, if that guy is having a lot of success, merit-based success, good on him.
Yep.
But I think there's something behind it.
Well, you know what I found really interesting, and it might be because the audience on TikTok is a fair bit younger. I mean, I'm sure it's probably one of the main contributing factors. But on Instagram, I didn't really get much hate at all. On Facebook, there wasn't really much hate at all. It was just everyone being like, yes, more of this is so funny, blah, blah, blah. But then on TikTok, there seemed to be like quite a few comments from people on that sort of alt-left spectrum kind of being like, what the hell is this? This is such weird content. Like, why would you do this? Like, what is this video? Like, this is bullying bullying. I'm like, God, you guys don't understand the difference between like satire.
Have you seen the recent? You probably haven't seen it. Have you seen the recent polling that's come out about age brackets?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so the polling's really good in Australia. They can break it down from age brackets. They do it every week, and it's like from, 18 to 35, 35 to 50, 50 plus.
Yeah.
And 18 to 35-year-olds are 35% Green voters, and then they're 25% Labor voters,
Right.
and then there's very small minorities for Liberal and even smaller for
Yeah.
One Nation.
Yeah, yeah.
And we know that the right side of common sense or politics, we can take a joke.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's what I've observed. I can only speak. That's the one thing about myself. You won't see me speak candidly about things that I don't know. Like I'm very comfortable saying, look, I don't know anything about that topic. I'll keep my mouth shut. But that's one thing that I have observed because I've experienced it firsthand. Like I have impersonated a lot of right figures. Like I've had a lot of success impersonating Donald Trump and Tony Abbott, as I mentioned earlier. But like as soon as I've gone after left people or just impersonated left people, bang, they come out in droves.
Well, let's just look at the recent issues with the X platform, the platform that they want to ban.
Yeah, right.
Right. Now, look, I've had a whole bunch of people reach out to me and say they're banning X because Elon Musk enabled Grok to allow bikini pics of people. And people are putting photos up there saying, hey, put this person in a bikini. But actually, they're doing it for young females as well.
Yeah.
And like that shit needs to stop.
Yeah, absolutely.
If that happens, then they need to stop. And Elon Musk has put stuff into place where only verified accounts can now ask Grok to do that.
Yeah.
And if you're verified, it means you have given your ID and you have to be verified for who you are to be on the platform. So if someone now comes out and says, give this 16-year-old in a bikini, then they can trace it back and be like, that's pedophilic behavior. We're going to arrest you. Which I completely agree with. Those pieces of shit that are doing that.
Oh, absolutely.
They need to be found and destroyed and thrown in prison.
Yeah, 100%.
But like Anthony Albanese and Keir Starmer getting angry because people are like asking them to be put in bikinis together, holding hands, walking on the beach is hilarious.
Well, that's one thing as well, like I think it's really like important that people love people that can take the piss out of themselves. And I think that's something that, like, we all know that in Australia there is like sort of a cultural tall poppy syndrome that goes on here sometimes, but also like we love a larrikin, we love someone who can take the piss out of themselves. And I've got a good relationship with Nick Kyrgios. Like, we played tennis together as juniors and stuff, and we're sort of like, friends to this day. When I impersonate him, he is so good at taking the piss out of himself. Like, I say some crazy rogue stuff and he will just sit there and laugh his ass off. And he's quite happy to reshare it, repost it, have a laugh. But, even some of the stuff that I've been doing, these skits with like sort of Abby Chatfield's boyfriend and stuff, I'm like, it would be so funny if he was open to the idea of coming together and we did like a me and him together impersonate. Like,
imagine how much respect he would get from
so much respect,
the entirety of Australia.
So much respect.
I would sit there and I would do a real laugh at it, and then I'd finish with, I'd be like, maybe I like this guy again.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe I like 100%. Him again.
And that's the thing. Like, people love to. I think that's so important. Like, if I became like a big name and someone was taking the piss out of me and impersonating me, I'd be like, God, this is hilarious. Like, I'd want to share it. I'd want to get around the person. I'd be like, dude, this is so funny. Like, I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like, I feel like people who put themselves like on that pedestal and kind of like are a little bit weird. Like, we can't get around that as Australians.
I'll give you an example. There was and I won't name him, but he was a big account and he's pretty left-leaning, and he did a reel about Andrew Hastie talking about bringing manufacturing back, and it's funny, the person that actually sort of took away manufacturing was Tony Abbott, which was like Andrew Hastie's boss back in the day, and now Andrew Hastie wants it back, and it's like, because we've sort of realised where we went wrong, but that person took the piss out of Hastie, being like, he doesn't realise that the gas sector was practically destroyed here and there in Wellbar, and it's quite a good reel. And then I see 2 days later that Andrew Hastie has reached out to him and asked him to collaborate with him. So he went up on Andrew Hastie's page.
Yeah, right.
And Hastie's like, I buy that. The kid makes a really good point, and he took the piss out of me. That's pretty funny.
Wow, that's good.
But you won't see a left-leaning politician come to me and say, hey, do you reckon we could collaborate on this?
You know what would be really cool, and I'd love to see more of this in 2026, is if like you could get someone like Abby Chatfield on this podcast. Like, you know what I would love to see? Like someone from that sort of alt-left space speak to someone with a differing view and just have a really candid discussion about stuff. Like that. I mean, I don't feel like we really see that anymore.
Yeah, I would be open to having her on the podcast. I've said this a few times before. Even if it's not to debate her about topics.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to... Sometimes you just want to sit down and just be like, I wonder what this person... I wonder what this person's like.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder if they're the person behind the camera.
That's right.
You know, because I have heard a few reports that people were a lot different behind the camera. I mean, maybe not me. I'm pretty like brutal and upfront in what I do on my podcast and in my life, and it's normally generally just me. Sometimes I see an article and I run down here, I turn the camera on, I'm just like, I just yell at the camera for 5 minutes, break it down to a 3-minute slot, and I'm like, oh, that felt good. I got that off my chest. And then I upload it, and 6 minutes later it's got like 10,000 views, and then an hour later it's got like 200,000 views. I'm like, oh, maybe that was maybe I preempted my energy there. But look, I reckon a lot of these people are just are quite normal, and I would definitely have her on the podcast. I need to get it out of my house first. Yeah,
of course. No, I think like maybe we spoke off mic, but yeah, like having a studio would be really cool.
Yeah. I mean, that's where I'm looking for space now in Adelaide. Yeah, just trying to get the right place. Yeah, because Adelaide's a bit different, commercial real estate and industrial real estate. Compared to like somewhere like Queensland. Yeah, Adelaide's a bit more set in stone. They want 3-year leases. Up in Queensland, you can sort of bargain and stuff like that. Yeah, they
seem to be a little bit more lax with their property laws. Like we have that like we have land tax, and I'm sure you're probably aware of like Victorians' land tax issues and like how like a lot of people are complaining about like how much we're being taxed. But like seemingly over in like Queensland and some of those places, like they don't even have it.
Yeah. It's the push from Melbourne to Queensland is happening at the moment.
It's happening.
There's a lot of people.
Would you ever consider moving?
Yeah. I've had a few friends. They all want us up there. I don't know if it's like North Brisbane or South Gold Coast area. Yeah. But mate, we've also we got the 6-month-old at home, planning on having another kid this year. Planning on having another kid after that, and maybe another one after that. And I got my mum. He's 10 minutes away. Her mum's 10 minutes away. Yeah, it's hard when her dad's like maybe half an hour away. Yeah. My dad lives about 4 or 5 hours away, but still, we're all here. Yeah, and there's something about Adelaide, mate. Yeah,
I love Adelaide. You know, I was just saying to my girlfriend when we got here, I was like, it's crazy. It reminds me of like a big kind of country town. Yeah, that's what exactly. Says. Yeah, it's amazing. The streets are so wide, and like it's really got a country feel, but you're in the metropolis.
Yeah. It's and it's beautiful. Like this is one of the best times of the year. It does get a bit shit, like Melbourne. Yeah, Melbourne's about 200 kilometers south on the equator. So on the equator. So you guys get a bit more extreme temperatures. Yeah, like your winters are cold. Yeah, like Friday night footy is cold.
Oh mate, freezing. And like really it's cold. Also just like we have just like wild conditions there. Like sometimes the wind and stuff. I'm like, bro, like, I can't even walk in the direct. Like it's crazy.
It's But like I just feel really sad for Victorians and Melbourneians. It's such because it's such a beautiful destination. Like
it's amazing.
But like what's happening at the moment with the machete crisis,
that's something
youth crime.
That's very like, and that's the machete stuff is happening like in my very backyard. Like I know multiple people who I won't name, but multiple people that I know personally that have had these like Sudanese gangs in their house with swords, like demanding belongings and demanding cars and all sorts of things.
Do you get worried about it yourself?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Like I've invested, I haven't like sort of retrofitted yet, but I've got like some cameras and stuff that I'm going to put up around the house, I think, at some point, and just like sort of invest in more security, because like someday, you know, I'm going to have a family, and you know, I think they should bring, I know there's been a lot of talk about it, but I think they should bring back castle law, and I think they should implement it, because I think, you know, the first thing that I would think, because I have a bit of a knowledge of the law. My dad's a retired solicitor, so like I understand like how the law works at a basic level. And the first thing that would go in my mind if some Sudanese gang came into my house with machetes, I would be thinking, oh shit, like I better give them what they want, because if I try and retaliate, I'm going to go to jail. And that's what would be going through my mind, which is just so wrong. I should be able to protect my girlfriend or my wife or my kids under any means necessary.
100%.
Especially if they're threatening my life.
And that's not only your right, that's your responsibility.
Absolutely.
That's your responsibility.
Absolutely.
As a man.
But like I feel so much empathy for any man who's been put in that position, who understands their legal position as well. Because when you understand that and you know that you're facing like serious jail time for defending your own family, and you've got guys waving swords in your face.
And it's going to come to a case where, because they're happening all the time now, right? It's going to come to a case where someone just stands up and kills one of these kids because they're coming in and threatening his family. And I'm like, that's what I would do.
Well, yeah.
That's what I would do.
That's what they should allow. Like, I don't understand why they're not implementing. If they're not going to be more stringent and more serious on strengthening these bail laws, why not just implement castle law?
But also as well, we got to get back to the root cause of the problem here is like, firstly, why aren't we just locking people up?
Well, I agree with these offenders, and particularly these youth offenders or these people that come from different countries. If they commit serious crimes like that, deport them immediately.
Yeah.
Like, why are they still in our country?
And not only deport them and their family. Make a statement. Make a statement to the whole community, whether they be black or white kids.
Yeah.
The whole community, whoever they are, if they're from overseas and they're causing trouble, you and your family are going to get deported. Yeah. Like back to Africa or back to the Middle East, back to wherever. If they can openly deport a South African for standing in outside of the New South Wales government with a banned Jewish lobbying banner, and they can deport him the next day, they can deport kids running around with machetes, and they can deport their families.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, look, I don't know enough about it. Like, and as I said, like, I don't like to talk about things I know enough like, that I don't like sort of have a lot of research into that I can speak. Maybe you can shed some light on this, because I feel like you're probably more well researched in this area, maybe. But one thing that I found really interesting is, like, I was speaking to someone who is from Ireland, and I was having a discussion with this person, and they were saying, you know, how it's been really difficult for them to get a visa. But then on the other side of the coin, like, seems that like a lot of these people that are committing these machete crimes, who represent that sort of small pocket of the Sudanese minority or whatever it is, they seem to be sort of getting fast tracked in, and there seems to be like sort of like almost like expedited. But then, you know, this person that I was speaking to, like, well educated, wants to make a really good impact while they're here in the country, wants to just get a job and like have a family, can barely get citizenship. And then I'm seeing the other side of the coin, and these people aren't being deported, and I'm like, what's going on here? Yeah,
it's racism against whites. And like, everyone hates me saying that, but it's absolutely true, because let me tell you what's happening. So Tony Burke, the immigration minister, don't like him at all. Don't like him. Don't like what he stands for. Don't like who he is. Don't like what he says, and don't like how he's enabling an invasion by immigration into this country. Now, I'm not against immigration, but I am against mass immigration that is destroying the nature of this country. Now,
well, I think it needs to be a bit more controlled, maybe vetted, like, you know, just even background checks on some of these people.
Yeah, but the hard thing is background checks on Sudanese kids you can't get. Yeah. Background checks on Middle Eastern people you can't get.
Well, that's the crazy thing about, you know, I know we're sort of jumping around a little bit here, but with the Bondi massacre, like, how that guy had 5 different firearms. What?
Yeah, I mean...
And he was on an ASIO list. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Why are we not, like, outraged at this?
I mean, you understand when I finish the Tony Burke story. So Tony Burke's electorate is Watson. Do you know where Watson is?
Isn't that in Canberra?
Nah, so Watson is Western Sydney.
Oh, okay.
You know, so Punch Bowl, Liverpool.
Yeah, right.
But that's the electorate, so it's a whole bunch of them together. Now, I've said this before and I'll say it again, 60% of families at home don't speak English as their first language. Yeah. And that's his electorate. And he's the immigration minister. Right. So he has to allow mass amounts of immigration for him to keep his seat.
I see.
And if he speaks up against Islamic extremists, if he speaks up against Sudanese gangs running around machetes, he will lose votes in his electorate. But if he deports a South African that goes to a Nazi rally, that is good for him in his electorate. So he's pandering to his voters.
Well, I think, like, that's kind of something that it's important for me to raise too. Like, we touched on it earlier, but like, I think extremism in any case is a bad thing. But yeah, like, it's just so strange. And I know that not every single person of these minority groups represent that. There are people from those certain groups that want to do the right thing and like want to integrate themselves into our culture
a perfect story about it. I coached an under 18 footy team a few years ago.
Yeah.
And two of the best young men in that team were Sudanese boys.
Yeah.
And they have grown up to be fantastic young men who are contributing to society more than Australian-born kids.
Yeah.
And they are the perfect example of two kids that came from Sudan. Their family came here.
Yeah.
And they embraced our way of life and they left whatever they had over there.
Yeah.
And now they're fantastic young men in society.
Yeah.
They never get in trouble. They don't really drink. They love their footy and they study at university.
Yeah, fantastic.
But then you get the other kids that come in and it's like giving everyone a bad name. But the reason they're giving everyone a bad name is because the government won't act on it. If the government acted on it and threw these people in jail or deported them, we wouldn't have a problem. And we wouldn't be like, because by the government doing this, they are creating a huge divide.
Yeah.
Because a lot of Australians can't see past now the colour of someone's skin. So like I just said, I know some fantastic young Sudanese boys, but a lot of Australians are now upset at the Sudanese community because they are running around with knives. Now, that's not all of them.
No,
and it's hard to get that across the majority of Australians.
Yeah.
But I feel Australians' pain because the government isn't doing anything against them. And now we're all just being like, well, there's a black kid over there and I don't like him because they run around with machetes. That's what's happening. But the government is doing that. The government is doing that.
You're right. It's kind of been like a really slow indoctrination, I feel, because if I think back to 10, 15, 20 years ago, if you said, oh, there's like a really bad like sort of crime spike and there's gangs of youths running around with swords and knives and going into people's homes and it's happening every single day. Surely there would be one of the most vicious crackdowns. People would sort of just be like, this needs to stop now. But like, it just keeps happening. And every single week, someone that I know is telling me another story about it. And I'm like, how is this still going on? Like, I'm starting not to feel safe in my own neighborhood and my own home. Like, that should be a place where I do feel safe.
Have you thought about moving?
I have, yeah. I have thought about moving. Again, similar to yourself, like it's hard when like my family is all in Melbourne and like a lot of the jobs and the opportunities that I have are in Melbourne. So that does make things difficult. But again, you know, if it keeps going down this path and it just becomes like just a huge crime hub, I mean, if I'm going to have a family, I want them to be safe and I want to be able to defend them and my home.
But the thing is, you shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
That's right. Yeah.
Like, you shouldn't have to speak to friends and have multiple of them have home raids done. Like, that shouldn't be the norm.
Yeah.
But that is the norm.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, why is it the norm? Oh, because society has told us that if we throw these people in prison, we're racist.
Yeah.
It's like, that's where DEI comes from.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we need to be inclusive of those people coming from different cultures now.
Yeah.
But if there's people that, like I explained before, of them Sudanese boys that I coach in the football team, if they can come over here and integrate with our society and never ever lapse from their old way of life or be forced to run around with a machete, then why is the people that are coming here doing it now? It's like, or why aren't we throwing them in prison? Like, because when did a young Australian life become more valuable than someone that's immigrated here? Like, we just got to make sure we're protecting our own. And this is this like very, I won't say woke, but postmodernism world where we're trying to send young offenders into rejuvenation programs. Like, did you hear about the kid that they put him in a program? He went up to Queensland.
I did see this. I think I read about this in the paper.
Yeah. So he went up to went on like to Waterworld, Movie World, did all that.
Taxpayer funded.
Yep. Came back and committed another crime. Now he's getting done as an adult, and he'll probably do 10 years in prison.
Oh, well, good.
Yeah. But like, shows it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to take the hard line on these things and throw these kids in prison.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing that I just don't understand, and I'm probably not as well read enough on the topic, but I just don't understand, why is it so hard to implement it? Like, it should be a no-brainer.
Because they'll lose votes.
God.
Because the Labor Party will lose votes. That's the reality of the situation.
God.
A lot of these people, where they're sitting in high immigration areas, Tony Burke for one, and I bet you a lot of the Labor and Greens members, they would be high immigration areas, which their electorate's in.
Yeah.
And if they turn against that, they'll lose votes. That's what they think anyway.
Yeah.
But mate, I had an immigrant. I had Brazilian immigrant come up to me in the gym this morning, and speaks very broken English, and he goes, "Bro, I love your stuff." And I asked him, I said, "What about when I speak up against immigrants?" I'm like, "What do you like about that?" He goes, "No, we need to deport the bad ones."
It's true. Yeah.
And then I said to him, I go, but what about the other stuff where I say we need to cut immigration like yesterday so we can get the housing market under control?
Yeah.
He's like, shut the door behind me. I don't want any more of them coming in. That's what he said.
Right, yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's nice feedback.
I mean, look, I just think I don't know how, but there should be like more of a vetting process, I think, with some of these people when they come in, like I think it's important because we're seeing so much crime at the moment, and there's got to be a reason for that. And I just don't really understand. Like, I mean, so you've sort of explained it a little bit now, but I just don't get why they can't just go,
because
they should.
Because they'll lose the election.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know who I need to vote for that to happen, but I'm going to send my votes that way.
Yeah. See, and this is the pool that's happening at the moment. With that's why Pauline Hanson's One Nation Party is rising up.
I've seen that. Yeah.
The first time in history. Yeah. Since the early 1930s or 40s, I believe, that a party that isn't Labor or Liberal have actually popped their head above one of the major two parties.
I have seen that. I mean, I read something the other day. I don't remember the exact statistic, but I did know that she is like rising up in terms of like the favour in the polls.
Yeah. Well, last time this happened, they threw her in prison.
Yeah, I do remember. How long? Yeah, I remember.
3 months.
3 months. That's
3
right.
months. They threw her in prison for 3 months.
God.
And Matt, this is the thing, Matt. Say what you want about Pauline Hanson, but after being thrown in prison for 3 months by Labor and Liberal, and still 20 years later, she stuck to that word.
Yeah.
Everyone branded her a racist, and now 2 decades later, everyone's being like, I reckon she's right.
Well, it is interesting.
Maybe she's right.
I mean, I don't know. Again, I don't know enough about it, but from what I've seen, like there seems to be a lot of complaints in the UK as well. Like there's a lot of knife crime there.
That's why reform's moving up with Nigel Farage.
Yeah, that's right. So that's kind of like the yardstick for us because they're like 10 years ahead of us, right? So we're kind of looking at what's happening over there, and like I just don't understand. Like, we spoke about history before off mic, and I feel like it's important to like look at the history and sort of go, oh, this could be potentially something that's going to happen here. And it's just so strange. Like, it's just like no one's really, well, I guess Pauline has, and there's some other people that are quite outspoken about it, but no one seems to be willing to address like the elephant in the room.
Well, even Andrew Hastie, Jacinta Price, they tried to, and they got torn down by the Liberal Party and by the media. Andrew Hastie said that we want to protect Australian culture and our way of life. He did a reel about it, and then papers in Melbourne were calling him a Nazi. Jacinta Price, she got destroyed by her own Liberal Party for saying that. And this was from a electorate reporter. Yeah. Right? He came out and gave the actual statistics saying that 85% of Indian immigrants are coming over and voting for Labor. She repeated what he said, which was the actual stats and numbers, and she got destroyed for it. And then she walked away from the Liberal Party.
Well, yeah, look, I just feel like it's just common sense, right? Like if these people that represent any minority, and even if they're white people, whatever, it doesn't matter about the colour of their skin or what creed they represent, whatever. If they commit a crime, and a serious crime at that, deport them. Like, just deport them. Yeah. It's not hard.
And we can revoke citizenship as well. Like if someone's come here and they've been here 5, 6 years and they're a citizen. Yeah. I mean, you can revoke citizenship and send them home. And like everyone says, oh, but their home country won't take them. I'm like, I'm sure there's a deal that can be made with India or Sudan. I mean, what play does Sudan have over us? Nothing. We can just drop them back at the airport and say, see you, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't understand. I think I mean, I could go on for hours about it, but I just think that most people with a common sense brain would think the same way. I mean, anyone, even I would love to speak to someone who is sort of like alt left on that side and extremist views on the left side. Like if I sat them down and I said, look, if someone from a certain minority group, whatever that group is, committed a serious crime, came into a house with a sword, threatened your family, threatened your children, harmed you or harmed one of your children and then stole personal belongings from you, would you feel like that they deserve to be deported? Like what are they, how are they going to answer that?
There's a great couple of rules out there, and people will probably correct me for saying who they were from, but there was protests against or countering mass immigration over in the UK. Yeah. Or like they were pro-immigration, saying let people in. Yeah. And someone went up there just saying, yeah, okay, so these people coming in, can you please sign to say here that you would take them into your own home so you can house them? And they were like, yeah, nah, sorry, I actually rent and I can't allow that.
Yeah.
And they went around to about 100 people and they all just said, no, I'm not willing to have them in my own home.
Yeah.
But it's so, because, a lot of this stuff, they just don't realise they sit on that side of politics, and they don't realise that some of these people we're bringing in, they're not they shouldn't be brought in. Let's just have, and I'll also say as well, there should be parts of the world where we don't import people from, but like I've said before and I've said previously, our birth rate was at 2.1 back in 05, 08, and that's when houses was 2 to 4 times your earnings.
Yep.
Since then, with really bad economic mistakes from both Labor and Liberal, houses are now 10 to 15 times your yearly earnings.
Yeah, right.
And our birth rate is now at 1.5 per female. And we are dragging from places in the world like Sudan, 3.5 birth rate, the Middle East, 3.5 birth rate, India, a birth rate above 2.1.
Yeah.
So we are dragging from these places that can sustain a pull away. And I think that's a directive from the UN.
Yeah.
Because the UN are like, well, you've got a population decrease in your country, you need to increase your population. And also as well, we've printed mass amounts of debt.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And we are a debt-ridden, debt-addicted. Melbourne's the worst for it.
Yeah, well, which is crazy when you think about how, like, sort of resource-rich we are as a country.
And, to service that debt, we need more people in the country. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
And when a lot of people realise we need to cut immigration, but it's like, let's fix the money system.
Yeah.
If we can fix the money system, immigration will eventually take care of ourselves. Then the housing market will come down, and then birth rate from young Australians will start to go up.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, we were having kids, but a lot of parents only the dad had to work.
Yeah.
Mum could stay home and have 3 or 4 kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's it's a really, it's fascinating where we're at.
Yeah, I know that you've talked about it before as well, and it's a huge issue. But like, just even the affordability of housing, it's insane. And sometimes walking around certain suburbs in my hometown, there's huge houses and big houses all over the place that are just overgrown with like weeds and stuff like that. And
no one's living in them.
No one's living in them. They're just huge mansions that have been bought by the Chinese. They've just come in and bought these huge blocks of land, and they're just land banking them.
Yeah. So when I said for that 05 thing, the government made some really bad economic mistakes.
Yeah.
So 05, what happened back then was Kevin Rudd allowed foreign students to start to buy houses.
Yeah.
What did that do? Open the Chinese market.
It was
for
a fast track for citizenship as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. Yep.
Yeah.
And that sent over time houses from 2 to 4 times your earnings because the Chinese investment opened up, and now it's at 10 to 15 times your earnings. Yeah,
well, I know quite a few people in real estate, and they're just getting outbidded. Young Australian families just getting outbidded. Like, they can't compete.
Yeah.
These guys have the deepest pockets known to man.
Yeah, well, you look at a whole bunch of like Indian people as well. It's not uncommon for them to have 7 or 8 people living in a house.
Yeah.
And then you've got a young couple that wants to bid for a 3 or 4 bedroom house, and they're being outbidded by 8 people.
Yeah.
It's just not economically valuable for the country.
Yeah. No,
Donald Trump just did a really, really cool thing over in America. He banned corporations from single family ownership. So BlackRock can no longer buy single family homes in America.
Right.
Which will cause the housing market to go down, but it needs to go down. We have them rules in place here, but we still allow certain corporations to land bank. Yeah. And foreign land banking is one of them, and that needs to stop immediately.
Yeah, it's happening all over the place. And I don't know the stat on it, but I'd love to know how much of Australia has been bought by foreign, owned by foreign ownership.
I read a stat. I don't know if it's correct, so I don't really, but it's apparently somewhere around 30,000 homes that have been land banked in Australia.
And even not just homes, I'm sure that there's been a hell of a lot of land acquired too.
Yeah.
Just land.
Yeah. And one of the things is as well, you can get big corporations that come in and they buy a whole bunch of houses and they leave these houses empty, and then the country gets flooded with mass immigration. What does that do? Well, if they leave that house empty, then more people need to bid for less houses. What does that do to the housing market?
Yeah.
Puts it up.
Yeah.
And then what does that do to their investment?
Yeah.
Puts it up. What can they do with that investment? They can borrow from that investment.
Yeah.
They can draw equity from that investment.
Right. Yeah.
So you look at stuff like that and you're like, single home ownership needs to be taken away from corporations,
Yeah.
but we also need to cut immigration.
Yeah. I
To
mean, look,
battle.
I don't know enough about all of the stats, but there's some major changes that need to be made across multiple different sects and levels. I just look at it and I'm like, what the hell is going on?
we live in one of the craziest societies at the moment.
And that's why I think it's so important for people like myself who are comedians to rise up and just take the piss out of it, because it's almost becoming increasingly harder to derive satire from things because it's already a joke.
Yeah.
Like, you're looking at some of this stuff, you're like, this is a gag as it is.
All I need to do is just come up and repeat whatever they said and people are going to laugh.
Yeah.
And you'll be like, oh, that's actually from a Jacinta Allen press conference that she did yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm like, it's already there. Like, the comedy writes itself. Like, that's sort of like what people say on my videos sometimes. They're like, oh, more of this. I'm like, easy. It writes itself. It's already there.
Sometimes whenever my rules, I'm just like, am I really talking about this again?
Yeah.
I've been talking about this for a year now.
Yeah.
I mean, I like, if you went back to some of my rules, I'm just repeating the same lines I did a year ago and everyone's still just loving it.
That's something that I'm keen to ask you. Would you ever consider getting into the political space?
No.
Would you ever run for any? Yeah.
Not now.
Yeah.
Not now. I never say never.
Yeah.
Never say never. A lot of people will probably be disappointed.
I mean, that's
at
what
that.
Trump said, right? Back in the day. He said he'd never be.
Yeah. But I started a lobbying group, me and a few people that I know, and I think we can have more influence through that way. But I also think right now can have a lot more influence with what I'm doing.
Yeah.
If I joined a political party, there's certain things you can and can't say.
Yeah.
And I'll address the elephant in the room. If I join One Nation, there's certain lobbyists and certain foreign interests that you're not allowed to call out.
Yeah.
And sort of similar to the Liberal Party, and it's like, I disagree with that stance on it, so I wouldn't be able to go to those parties and I wouldn't be able to hold my tongue.
Yeah.
It's just not me. Like, I can't not say staying if I don't agree with it. Like, I'm not just going to toe the line because that's the party I need to be in for effect change. I think right now with what I'm doing, I'm having far more influence.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think? I mean, we spoke about sort of the change to the education system. Like, what do you think there could be like a sort of like an innovative change to the way that we govern society? Like, could there be like an alternate method from like left, right, like Labor, Liberal? Like, could there be like a different
dictatorship where I'm in control? Yes. Yes. Sam's rules, and it's either the highway. Yeah. Well, it's either my way or the highway.
Yeah.
I mean, but no, can't
crime rate would definitely diminish.
Well, mate, I'd be having this place run like a business.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the business that benefits the people.
Yeah.
Not the government and the lobbyists and the politicians.
Yeah. I feel like look, again, like, I don't have a degree in politics. I'm probably not someone who's like educated enough to have like a really strong opinion on this stuff, but it just seems like even someone just on the outside, a citizen, if you will, it just seems like there's so much backhanded stuff that goes on that we're not made aware about. And it's just so like clear.
Yeah. Have you heard Elon Musk talk about this?
No.
So Elon Musk came out on the Joe Rogan podcast, and Joe Rogan was like, is it just the insider trading?
Yeah.
And Elon Musk is like, I've got to be careful what I say here, because if I say too much, I might get killed.
I think I saw that.
And then he went on to say, he goes, it's a lot more than insider trading, and then he pivoted and he went, you just got to understand that there are politicians out there with kids, with grandkids, and their kids have kids, and they have a massive network and family. If you expose that, then you expose their kids' way of life. People will not pull back or draw back from going after someone if you threaten their kids from the corruption they've had. Yeah, I don't think it's any different to in Australian politics. Now, I've got two fixes. Yeah. Two overnight fixes. Yeah. I talk about debt being 95% of the Australian problem at the moment, because we're almost about to hit $1 trillion worth of debt. Now, with that debt, every single year, I think the numbers are somewhere from $20 to $50 billion worth we pay off in interest repayments alone. And that interest repayments come from our taxes. Yeah. Right. And each year they spend more than they earn, and they keep adding to the debt. So the interest repayments keep getting more and more from me and you. Yeah. So what we need to do is we need to tie politicians' pay back to the debt.
Yeah.
And if they don't make a surplus and pay off the debt, not just the interest, but the debt itself every single 3 months,
Yeah.
politicians don't get paid.
Well, it's interesting because that's the thing I was talking about earlier with the government bureaucracies like Screen Australia. You know, they're faceless bureaucrats. That's what they are. And so no one's held accountable.
No.
So there's no like sort of meeting, and I'm just talking about the entertainment space. You've talked about it, something a lot more broad, which it's a very interesting take that you've just raised. But I would love to see these people held accountable and like sit in a board meeting and have the metrics shoved down their throat and actually look at the numbers and have like actual axiomatic data that they can look at and be like, and make decisions based off that.
Or they're getting them.
Yeah.
They're getting numbers. They're just looking at it and going, how can we win the next election and fudge these numbers?
Yeah.
That's what they're looking at.
Yeah.
Like, you can't tell me Jim Chalmers continuously looks at our $1 trillion debt and just goes, all right, how am I going to sell this to the Australian people? How am I going to sell that we're doing the right thing here?
Anyone in politics, they're all experts at just like...
Bullshitting.
Yeah. They're such good speakers.
Yep.
They're the most amazing people. Like if I watch any press conference, regardless of whether they represent left or right in politics, they're so good at not answering questions, but still providing an answer.
Yeah.
Like they'll have no substance in their responses if they don't want to talk about something, but it will still somehow sound like somewhat of an answer.
It's like the Bondi Massacre stuff. Oh, so are we going to talk about extremism in Australia? Yeah, it's the Nazis. It's the Nazis. That's all the Anthony Albanese government came back with. And it's like, guys, can we address the elephant in the room here, please?
Well, I heard you and Jackson talk about it, but like, why is there not talk about a royal commission into how that actually occurred?
There is.
Yeah.
There is, but the Royal Commission, what's sitting over the top of it is anti-Semitism and social cohesion. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, we're just going to investigate the incidents around the Bondi. But they're not going to address the thing that happened 4 to 5 years ago and months before. I bet you none of that comes up. Yeah. And all they talk about is anti-Semitism on the right and social cohesion on the right. So I bet you people like me they'll come after people like me for causing social cohesion in society. Yeah. Which caused this event to happen. That's what will happen from it. Yeah. The Bondi incident itself, I mean, I have so much stuff that I want answered from it, which I don't think we'll ever get answers from. Yeah. I mean, it actually makes me sick. Like when I sort of read about the fact that he was on an ASIO list and had 5 firearms. Yeah, the dad did. Yeah, so the son was on the list and the dad had that firearms. Yeah, I mean, gosh, like you've got to draw that correlation. Yeah. And you've just got to do something about like that. Like it's just devastating to see that. And I think everyone in Australia was just heartbroken by those scenes. You know, it was just devastating and it should never have happened. It was the first time Australians actually seen some form of war on home soil, except for the Darwin bombings. I mean, the footage was insane. And again, I hate that this stuff is sent around in group chats that I'm with, and you get this stuff and you just go, "Would a bit of forewarning would be nice." And you see this stuff and you go, "God, I almost wish I didn't click on that." It's brutal, man. Brutal. It was war. It was. It was war. It was. People can't say it was. It was war, and it was it was a well thought out. It was a well researched, and it was the guys knew what they were doing, and they knew where they were firing from. They'd definitely been there a few days before. They planned the event. They had everything resourced to them, which they could have got, and it was devastating that it happened. But a lot of people were coming out, and it was all just anti-Semitism this, social cohesion this. I'm like, no, stop dealing with the words and start dealing with the bullets. Yeah. I want to know how this happened. Yeah. On Australian soil. I want to know how these guys got their weapons, how they went to the Philippines for a holiday. Yeah. Right, when there's known ISIS training camps in the area that they visited, and then how they came back in and they weren't questioned by ASIO. Well, that's right. It's like, we want to know how this happened. Yeah, and that's not the words. And just even like on a different note, I'd love to know, I mean, I don't know, maybe you know a little bit more about this, but I'd love to know what happened with some of the heroes that stepped in and actually, tried to aid some of the victims and actually, the guy who wrestled the gunman. Yeah, Ahmed. He's over in America. What, is he? Yeah, didn't you hear this? No, I didn't hear this. Oh, so he's over in America. Yeah, I saw it and I'm like, what happened? Because he was sort of like he was in hospital with gun wounds
gunshot wounds, and then all of a sudden I just heard nothing. Like I was looking on social media trying to find things and Googling articles, and I couldn't find anything.
So he's got one of the funniest stories there is, right? Like did all this stuff, and then Sky News reached out to him, and Sky News is Sky News, they're very pro Israel.
Yeah.
And this guy's a Muslim from Syria, so he probably doesn't like Israel.
Yeah.
But anyway, Sky News flew him down to Melbourne. And they were like, let's get this interview done. He demanded a suite up in the top. So it was like $6,000 for like 2 nights. And because he doesn't like Sky News, they wanted to interview him, and they organised all this stuff, and they were trying to get him. And for 2.5 days, he just hung out in his suite.
Yeah.
And then ignored all their phone calls. And then just when time was checkout, he checked out and went back to Sydney.
What?
Because he hates Sky News, so he just played him. He played him for like 10 grand.
What the hell?
Right, and then I see that he's flying over to the US, and he's getting paraded around there by the Jewish community over there. They're like, this guy's a hero. I'm like, this guy just played his biggest trump card and just got a free couple of nights in a grand suite in Melbourne because he doesn't like Sky News.
Gosh, that's unbelievable.
Mate, he was the best. He was the best. But mate, before we wrap up, I want to end on a high note, and I want to see some impersonations. Some of your favourite impersonations.
I may as well get my voice list out.
There you go. Yep.
I will just whip out my phone and just have a little look here.
Now, Australia's watching now, so these podcasts get a bit of views now, so don't be under pressure at all to perform.
Thanks for that, mate. Now I've got the jitters, but no, there is. I mean, who would you like to hear from in particular? I've got a few just off the cusp here. There's Bear Grylls, there's Morgan Freeman, there's Tony Abbott, there's Husey, there's Matthew McConaughey. There's probably a list of about 100 here. So
Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah,
that's and then I'll want Morgan Freeman.
Okay.
And then Bear Grylls.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Matthew McConaughey here. It's fantastic to come on the Two Worlds Collide podcast. It's not necessarily a good podcast. It might not be a great podcast, but it is. All right.
Nailed that one.
Yeah, so that's and so we've got Morgan Freeman. Well, sometimes I bring my voice down like this, and I'll talk like Morgan Freeman. I've got to say, Sam, you remind me of my friend, Andy Dufresne.
So I closed my eyes then, and I actually pictured Morgan Freeman talking. That was perfect.
Yeah. You know, the ironic thing is Australia is Shawshank.
Yes. We are in an open-air prison. Bear Grylls.
Bear Grylls. All right, so on Bear Grylls, I gotta say, Sam, it's great to be with a fellow military guy and being on your podcast, right in the trenches, it's fantastic. And, I've been eating shit so long in Australia, so just to be here and actually be on your podcast and see your formidable face in the flesh, it's great. So thanks, mate. This is the furthest thing from desolate. The Two Worlds Collide podcast. Get amongst it.
Oh, man, I could sit here and listen to these all day. What about, hold on, last one. Can you give me a Bruce McAvaney?
Oh, yes, of course.
Yes. The GOAT himself.
Yes, well, Bruce McAvaney here right now, and I want to talk about the Two World Collides podcast. I mean, it's such a formidable podcast, and I love what you do here. And Sam, you're just such an athlete. I mean, I love the run that you did and the money that you raised and the things that you've done. You're such a great athlete. You run like Steve Monaghetti. You really do. You're just so fast and fit and robust. And I saw your quadriceps and I saw your calves, and you were very modest about it. But Brucey notices, and I love what I saw. And you're such a great athlete. And thank you for having Brucey on your podcast, Sam. So thank you very much for your time.
Well, Elliot and all them other impersonations, mate, thank you very much for coming on Two Worlds Collide podcast. And I would like to invite you back again when you come to Adelaide.
Oh, thanks.
I don't want people just to come on one time. I'd love for them to come back. So
you're
always welcome.
To come back.
Always welcome.
No, it's been great. And thanks so much for having me on too and for reaching out. And mate, it's so good to see, as I said, someone who has a sort of a different viewpoint and who's able to sort of like have a platform like you do and just talk about so many different issues and sort of raise awareness. It's so great to see sort of both sides of the spectrum now represented in social media.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah, well, because for so long we've had sort of like one way that's, I felt like, being shoved down our throats by, mainstream media. And I think it's important to have a balanced take and understand what's going on from both sides. And,
Well, hopefully I don't get cancelled by the government and then debanked.
Yeah, well,
let's hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Well, hopefully I don't get cancelled either.
That's it. Well, thanks for coming on, mate.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
Thanks for tuning in to Two Worlds Collide podcast. If you want to support what I'm doing, you can grab some merch or jump on my Patreon program. Both links are in the description. Until next week, take care, guys.